Ladies and gentlemen, it is my favorite time of the year because it is mock draft season. And this is always the silver lining about having a bad football year, right? Because then you get to the NFL draft and you say, hey, we're picking top 15. We're at 14. It's not a place that Baltimore's been at often. And when you look at the tape, when you look at the past years, anytime they've had a pick inside the top 14, it's gone decently well, okay? Right now, they're slated to have 10 draft picks in the 2026 NFL Draft. 14, 45, 80, 115, and then they go on and rattle off 4 fifth-round picks from 152 to 173. They don't have a sixth-rounder, but they have 2 picks in the 7th round. In my opinion, you got 5 really big draft needs going into this thing. Offensive line and defensive line. That is 1 and 2. They can be interchangeable. If you think one's more important than the other, hell, I probably agree with you. Cornerback is 3rd, and then I think linebacker and wide receiver are flip-floppable for 4th and 5th. Because where you are right now with your wideouts, I don't know if you're set up for some really strong success in the future, and I would argue the same thing with the linebacker position, with Roquan Smith just getting older each and every year, and you're still paying him a lot of money. So you definitely got to figure out that position group for the future in this draft as well. Are you excited about the NFL draft? If you are, hit that thumbs up button and like today's video. And we will get into my first mock draft. The Ravens, the 14th overall pick, are going to select out of Penn State offensive guard Vega Ioane. A Nittany Lion is now going to become a Baltimore Raven. Look, this is one of those guys that you could probably get a little bit later in the first round. So I would not be surprised if he's still on the board and the Ravens feel good about getting him. I would not be surprised if they did the classic Ravens move and traded down. But you know you desperately need offensive guard, and Vega is a guy who could come in there and be a first-year starter. Impact day 1 starter for the Baltimore Ravens. 80 overall PFF grade, didn't allow a single sack, a single hit, only 4 pressures and 1 penalty, and 614 snaps in college football this past season. And when you think about the Baltimore Ravens offensive line, in my opinion, it was one of the biggest weaknesses on this team that even got masked a little bit with just how talented guys like Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are. Like, if you had average players at those 2 positions, I think it'd be widely regarded as one of the worst offensive lines in the National Football League. You have to do something different at guard. Right now, you kind of feel, look, okay, you're going to have Emory Jones Jr. most likely as a starter. You need another guard to start on the other side. I think that's going to be Vega Ioane or Ioane out of Penn State. Who are the Ravens picking in the first round? Let me know down below in the comments section. In my first mock draft, I got Vega Ioane. Let me know who you got them taking at 14. Our second overall pick. How about R. Mason Thomas, defensive lineman out of OU? This is a guy that I think is an absolute stud, and I frankly was a little bit surprised when I saw him fall to the second round, but I was excited about it. He played in 10 games for OU this past season, missed a couple due to injury, but 6.5 sacks, 28 pressures, 2 forced fumbles, almost 10 tackles for loss. And this is just back-to-back seasons of really, really good play for R. Mason Thomas. And it's really, really hard to, consistently stack up 2 good years in college football. Like, you would have thought after 2024, a lot of times these guys, like James Pierce Jr. last year, take a little bit of a step back. And while statistically, you look at TFLs and sacks, yeah, maybe he did. But if you're just watching the tape or watching these games in full and you're thinking about real-life game impact, R. Mason Thomas was incredibly impactful in 2025, and I have a feeling he could be the same thing for the Baltimore Ravens. I love his build. Okay, he's big, he's fast, he's strong, and we know that you need help on the edge. Kyle Van Noy, that's a big question mark. Draymond Jones, he's a free agent. Right now, the 3 edge rushers you have on this roster are Mike Green, Tavius Robinson, and Adisa Isaac. You need more. So you got more. In the 3rd round, Julian Neal, defensive back out of Arkansas with the 80th overall pick. This is one of those guys that I think if he played for a team like an Ohio State or something like that, he would be regarded in a little bit of a better light than he is. But it's just because he played for Arkansas, and Arkansas was horrific. But he was one of the, few bright spots on that team in Fayetteville in 2025. 12 pass breakups, 2 tackles for loss. His coverage stats are pretty awesome. 56% completion percentage allowed, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 82.5. This is a guy that you should be able to get in the 3rd round. If he is still there at 80, I would not hesitate twice in jumping up, snatching him, and giving you a little bit of young depth in the cornerback room. Because, hey, you just added a guy like Mike Mickens in as your defensive back coach, and he does really, really wonderful things with young cornerbacks and young defensive backs. Let's go to A&M, okay, with the 80th overall pick, 115th. Albert Regis, defensive tackle for the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies. And Mike Elko, what he's able to do with his defensive linemen year in and year out is really, really impressive. Now, I will say the one thing about Regis that I don't necessarily love is the height, 6'1". But still, 317 pounds on that. Absolutely love that. 43 tackles in 2025. He's great in run defense. He has great gap integrity as well. He's strong. He's fast. I think he can be chaotic up there on the front, and that's where I'm going with the Ravens' 4th round pick. What's the Ravens' biggest position of need? You let me know down below in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's offensive line. I'm curious what you think it is down below in the comments. Let's go to the 5th round in a little bit because we got 4 5th-round picks to get to. But before that, I got to shout out chatsports.com/mentor. If you guys have not checked out, our brand new Mentor is coming merchandise. It's the first merch we've ever done on this channel. Make sure to check it out as soon as you can by clicking on the link down below in the comments and description of today's video. It's right under the first paragraph. Made it super easy for you guys. We got the hoodies for $44.99. We got the t-shirts for $30. Or if you want to get them both, you can save $10 on the order. Chatsports.com/mentor. Be one of the first to be repping our first ever merch that we've got right here on the channel. Again, that link is in the comments and description of today's video. Let's get into the 5th-round picks because you got 4 of them straight, and you're going to spend your first one on Dae'Quan Wright, tight end out of Ole Miss. This, in my opinion, not to toot my own horn, is one of my favorite picks in this draft so far. I think Dae'Quan Wright was a really, really good player for the Ole Miss Rebels in 2025. Excuse me. And the yards might not be anything that really jump off the page for you, but you got to realize he played on a stacked offense with loads of talent in the receiver room, in the tight end room with him, in the running back room. And so almost getting to 500 yards on a team like Ole Miss, I'm incredibly impressed with. And he looks to me a little bit like an Isaiah Likely. Okay, now obviously Isaiah Likely went to a smaller school, went to Coastal Carolina, but his athleticism just jumps off the page. That's the exact same with Dae'Quan Wright. I love the fact that he can block, he can run and catch. He can pretty much do everything you'd want a tight end to do year one in the National Football League. And you extended Mark Andrews, but right now Charlie Kolar and Isaiah Likely are still free agents. You're not going to bring them both back. You need help in the tight end room. I also think you need help in the linebacker room, and I don't know if there's a better guy at this round, this value, than Aiden Fisher, linebacker out of Indiana. If you watched Indiana's playoff run at all, then you know exactly who I'm talking about, and you know exactly why I'd be excited for a guy like this. 75 tackles in 15 games, 2.5 sacks, 2 interceptions. What jumps off the page to me about Aiden Fisher is just the aggression that he plays with, his willingness to jump in a gap and hit somebody in the mouth. I think that's something the Ravens are missing in 2025 across the board, but even in the linebacker room as well. And I'm talking about a guy like Roquan Smith, okay? So Aiden Fisher, I think he'd be a great pick right there in the 5th round. Continuing on with the 5th round selections, how about Brennan Thompson, wide receiver out of Mississippi State? I really am interested in Brennan Thompson. In fact, when I got there, I was a little bit surprised that he had fallen that long. Now, I will give this caveat. He is 5'9", okay? He is not a big guy at all. In fact, he is built exactly like your quote-unquote wide receiver one is right now with Zay Flowers, but he plays very similarly to him as well. Okay, he's explosive whenever he gets the ball in his hands. Every single time he touches it, he could find the end zone in an instant. Okay, Brennan Thompson did really, really great things. Not a great Mississippi State team. I feel like if you take a chance on him in the National Football League, especially in the 5th round, if he falls that far, that's a pick I'd be pretty excited about. The Ravens should draft a wide receiver by the blank round. What do you think? I think with all those 5th-round picks, I think the 5th round is at least the latest. Like, if you wait to the 7th, I think it's a massive, massive miss from Baltimore. The final of the 5th rounders is going to go to Ole Miss again. How about Xavier Harris, defensive tackle for the Rebels? I think this is a guy that I know I've been saying this a lot. Like, this might be my favorite pick, but I think Xavier Harris is up there in my first mock draft. 6'7", 320 pounds. Size you can just absolutely fall in love with. 43 tackles, 3 sacks. You just need somebody that's going to be big up front and is just going to wreak havoc all game long. That's what Xavier Harris is going to be able to do. Now, will he be a day one impact starter, impact contributor for Baltimore? I'm not sure about that. But at that size, I think you take a shot. I think you also take a shot on Chip Trayanum out of Toledo. Last time you drafted a running back from Toledo, it honestly went decently well. Why not give that a shot again with Chip? You got to start having a little bit of a contingency plan for life after Derrick Henry. I get it. Derrick Henry has had a long career, and he's still dominant. I don't know how much longer he's going to be dominant. And right now in the running back room, you got Keaton Mitchell, you got Justice Hill, but Hill's getting older. He's suffered with injuries, and I don't know if Justice Hill could be a wide or a running back one in this league. So I think it's kind of start time to add in some, dynamic depth to that position outside of those guys to maybe, play a little bit for the future. Last up, we're going to round things out how we started them. Let's just go ahead and get another offensive lineman, offensive guard, Thomas Rimatch out of Virginia Tech. Look, you need as much depth on the offensive line as you could possibly get. I don't know what's going to happen in the future of Daniel Falele. I don't know what's going to happen in the future of Andrew Voorhees. All I know is that I hope that they are not in the future of the Baltimore Ravens. Here's my first mock draft. Vega Ioane and the 14th overall pick. R. Mason Thomas, Julian Neal, Albert Regis, Dae'Quan Wright, Aiden Fisher, Brennan Thompson, Xavier Harris, Chip Trayanum, and Thomas Rimatch. Grade my first mock draft down below in the comments. A, B, C, D, or F. I looked last year, and I actually had the Ravens drafting Jahdae Barron in our first mock draft, which is an awesome draft for last year because the Ravens were picking at 27. I think Barron went like top 12 to Denver. So I'll pat myself on the back on this one. Hopefully, I got a good player in my first draft as well. That's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you guys got me followed on socials. At Joey Petersen 8 on Twitter, at Joey Petersen 8 on Instagram as well. And make sure, if you have not yet, you subscribe to the channel for daily content.